What's up guys, my name is Ace, and as you can see today, we're going to be doing a bit of a response video to Drift0r's video, and his was titled, I don't like this game, and he brought up a ton of points as to why he doesn't like this game, and I respect his opinion, but I disagree with a lot of the points that he made. I realize I'm going against the grain here because the trend right now is to be negative about this game and to hate on this game and stuff like that. I'm not saying Drift0r's hating on the game necessarily. He did have a lot of negative points though, and he is generally feeling negative about the game. For me personally, I enjoy this game. Now that's not to say that this game doesn't have a ton of big issues. There are big issues. I want to talk about them in a constructive sort of way. I will be addressing the big issues, but overall I'm enjoying this game. I've been playing the crap out of this game for both beta weekends and I'm enjoying myself. And just by me saying that, I already know that triggers all of the comments about me being some sort of Activision sellout, me trying to get into these DLC events, me only doing this because it's my livelihood, it's my income, and I'm getting so sick of this attitude. The reason I got into making Call of Duty content on YouTube is because I love playing Call of Duty. I'm passionate about Call of Duty, and that's no different with this year for Infinite Warfare. Do I like it as much as Black Ops 3 in its current state? No. I'll be honest, I don't. I do prefer Treyarch games at this point in time, but this doesn't mean I don't enjoy myself with Infinity Ward games. If you guys can't handle a Call of Duty YouTuber that actually enjoys the game that they're playing, you're in the wrong place. I enjoy this game, and don't tell me what my opinion is. If you're one of those people that still insists that I'm only saying positive things because I'm an Activision sellout or I want to be an Activision sellout or something like that, just go away. I don't want you on my channel anymore. Take your negativity elsewhere. So now that we got that out of the way, let's start going through the points that Drift0r made in his video and sharing my opinion on his opinions on those points. So first off, his number one issue was the apparent time to kill issue, where it's not actually time to kill. He discussed this as well. I've discussed this before. It's not actually the time to kill that's the issue. It's some sort of a connection and latency sort of issue where it feels like you die way faster than you kill. This was a huge problem the first couple days of the beta last weekend for PS4. This was definitely a big problem, and when this issue happens, I would consider this to be a game-breaking issue. This game sucks when that is going on. I totally agree with that. I'm not making any excuses for that. When you have those lobbies, it absolutely sucks because you don't really stand a chance in your gunfights, and the game becomes completely unfair at that point. But, like Drift0r said, this has been improving already. It improved a little bit for the Sunday and Monday of last weekend's beta, and then coming into weekend 2 of the beta for PS4 users at least, it has once again improved a little bit more. They keep tweaking things, they keep working on it, and that's the point of having this beta, or if you guys want to call it a demo, I don't care what you want to call it. As long as they're making tweaks and finding things out while stress testing servers so that the launch will be as smooth as possible, I don't care what you want to call it. They've been tweaking things and they have been improving this issue. But it's not completely solved yet, and it does need to be solved for the release of the game. I completely agree there. Moving on to the next point he made, that is spawns. And again, this is an area I can agree with. Unlike Drift0r, who claimed that he's not an expert with spawns, he's not a competitive player and stuff, like he doesn't know the spawns very well, I do consider myself to be somewhat of a spawn expert. For those of you guys who have been on my channel for a while, I do a series on my channel called Spawn Guides, where I do very, very detailed analysis of the spawn logic as well as all the spawn locations on all of the maps. I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to spawns, and I even had a developer from Black Ops 3 recommend my spawn videos for people that weren't fully understanding how the spawn algorithm and how the spawn system works. So I do consider myself to be somewhat of a spawn expert. And I will say that the spawns are not where they should be in their current state in Infinite Warfare. There are bad spawns that happen, and then there's also just some weird spawns that don't seem to make any sense that happen as well. This needs to be tweaked. I completely agree with that. But the one thing I want to bring up is this is the kind of stuff that you need a massive amount of data for in order to make the proper tweaks. You can't have perfect spawns just based off of your in-house testing in the game. There's just not enough data there. You need to get this in the hands of the masses so that you can collect enough data to make the necessary changes to the spawn system. So I agree, it is a problem in the game at the moment and it does need to be fixed, but it is very fixable, and we've seen this in every Call of Duty release that I can remember. At the beginning of the game, you see tons and tons of spawn complaints, people saying that this is the worst spawns I've ever seen in Call of Duty. And then as the weeks and the first month or two of the game come out, tweaks are made based on the data that they're collecting, and those complaints start to fade away. So far, as I was watching Drift0r's video, I was thinking, great, I agree with those points, they do need to be tweaked, they are big issues in the game, but then we start getting into things that I didn't agree with too much, and I kind of want to break his points down just a little bit and share my opinions on the points that he was talking about. So first off, we have the unfair abilities that he was talking about. And with this, the biggest issue that he had is you didn't know which trait the enemy had on their combat rig, because you have 3 traits to choose from. These are passive traits that you don't have to like activate, and it isn't clear that what they have and everything. And that does make sense. You don't know exactly what they're using because they have 3 things to choose from for their traits. But just take those traits, put them in the regular perk category, like take them off of the combat rigs, and guess what? You still don't know what they're using. It's no different than any other perk in the game. If anything, it gives you at least a bit of a hint to what they could be using. It narrows it down to 3 potential things. So if I see a merc, he might have infusion. He might be able to heal up quicker. Whereas in Ghosts, I had no idea if the guy had ICU or not, which is the exact same perk as infusion. It was just in the game as a perk rather than a trait. I had no idea if the enemy had ICU until after I was already dead if he happened to kill me. So I don't really see this point that he made. I don't really see this as a valid point because these traits, if you were to just swap them out for perks, it's the same sort of thing. You have no idea what they're using, and we never have in Call of Duty, aside from, I believe, Black Ops 1, which your tier 1 perk decided what your character looked like. As for the specific traits that he was having issues with, we can get into that a little bit, and I do agree with at least one of them. Like, first off, he had an issue with infusion. I don't see an issue with infusion. Like I said, it's the exact same thing as the ICU perk from Ghosts. And if you remember back to Ghosts, I don't remember anybody complaining about that perk at all. People were complaining about Amplify and a bunch of other perks like that. Ghost, I think, or the one that kept you off the radar. I can't remember what it was called, like off the grid or something. I don't remember any complaints about ICU, at least not in the public match scene. I could see maybe in the competitive scene, but I wasn't in the competitive scene at the time, so I just don't know. But as far as public matches go, ICU was a non-issue. Moving on to the next one, we have Propulsion. This is the trait for Synaptic, and it's basically like Afterburner from Black Ops 3. Again, this is no different than a perk from a previous game, aside from the fact that you can do a bit of damage if you thrust over an enemy. I haven't done any testing on this. I don't think Drift0r has done any testing on this either. So if it does an extreme amount of damage, of course, I could see this being overpowered. But as it is right now, based on what we've seen, this isn't an overpowered trait by any means. Having Afterburner, or the equivalent of Afterburner, especially in this game where the movement doesn't seem to be as needed as Black Ops 3, I don't see this to be an issue if somebody has this over a different trait in the game. So again, I'm not seeing an issue with this point that he brought up. The one that I do agree with and do have a bit of an issue with is Perception. This is one of FTL's traits, and this is kind of like Sixth Sense from Black Ops 3, but it's different in that if an enemy is just looking at you, you don't need to be able to see them. If they're looking at you, there will be a small indicator on your heads-up display that will tell you there's an enemy looking at you from this general direction. This one, I agree, just like Sixth Sense, I don't feel like it really has a place in the game, but it's great for the casuals, I guess. It does compress the skill gap, which I don't necessarily agree with, but it does appeal to some players. At least with this, it is completely countered by Cold-Blooded, which is something that Drift0r didn't mention. This is countered by Cold-Blooded, so if you are annoyed by this, if you are getting killed by this too often, and if it does become a serious problem in the game, which I don't see it becoming, you can always have a Cold-Blooded class ready to go to completely destroy those people, because you'll always take them off guard. So I don't like this trait, but I don't see it as anywhere near a game-breaking trait by any means. Moving on to the payloads, which are the active abilities and power weapons, where you have to actually activate them. You only get to use them a couple times a game or a few times a game, and they only last for a certain period of time. These aren't like traits where they're always on your class. The main ones that he was having issues with is, first off, Bull Charge, and he showed one death where it was pretty much an unpreventable death in his case, and that's going to happen with these power weapons. Bull Charge, if you use it for yourself, it's quite difficult to control that person. You can't really steer the Bull Charge very well. And if enemies get beside you or behind you, you have the same amount of health as usual. So they can just melt you from the side or from behind, or if they jump over you, they can shoot down on you. This Bull Charge isn't nearly as powerful as he seemed to make it out to be. Will there be some annoying deaths? Absolutely. And overall, with these power weapons and stuff, I usually don't agree with them. I don't like them. If anything, Eraser, which I don't think Drift0r mentioned, Eraser is one that I really don't like because it's way too easy to hip fire, and it just equals like absolutely free kills, and there's no chance against it. Whereas like Bull Charge, for instance, you use your movement to try and sidestep him or jump over him or jump and move to the side to get out of his way. If he uses it in a tight corridor or up close to the point where you can't react in time, then yeah, you're going to lose. I'm sorry, you're going to lose that gunfight, or you're going to lose that situation. That's just how it is. I would say it's much better than gravity spikes, for instance. At least with a Bull Charge, you do have to kind of like point yourself at the enemy. You are vulnerable when you're doing this. With gravity spikes, you just hit 2 buttons and everyone around you is dead. With Bull Charge, it's a different story. Moving on to the next one that he had an issue with, this is FTL Jump. This is the one where you glitch forward, basically. I don't really see, I don't think he actually made any solid arguments for why this is overpowered. He mentioned that he wasn't very good with it. I don't recall him making any actual points as to why this is overpowered, and I don't see this as being overpowered by any means. And then another one that he had an issue with was Reaper, which is the robotic dog. Now this one can be a little bit annoying. If you see it up close, a lot of times you're basically you're dead. Like, you don't stand a chance because he just melts you so fast. But like he said also, the Reaper doesn't really have that much more health, or I don't even know if it has any more health than a regular player. This will require a bit of testing. And overall, again, I don't see it as a huge issue in the game. Are there going to be annoying deaths to it? Absolutely. But that's no different than the Black Ops 3 power weapons. There are going to be some frustrating deaths that you feel are unavoidable. And it sucks. It sucks getting rippered in Black Ops 3, or having a purifier guy just touch you with a flame and you die in Black Ops 3, or a gravity spike killing you in Black Ops 3. It's not going to be really any different this time around. If anything, on average, I feel like these weapons that people have in Infinite Warfare aren't going to be quite as annoying as in Black Ops 3, but that's just my opinion. Moving on to his next set of points, this is getting into the guns, and more specifically the gun variants in Infinite Warfare. One of Drift0r's biggest issues here was that you don't know which gun variant they're using until you're already dead and you see it in the kill cam. And I don't know if Drift0r knows this yet, but you can actually see which gun variant it is by looking at the kill feed. If you look at the kill feed, you can see the picture of the gun so you know what the gun is, and then below it there will be a little colored bar. That colored bar indicates which rarity level that gun is. So if you see an NV4 with a purple bar below it, you know he's using the NV4 Fallout. If you see an NV4 with an orange line below it, you know he's using the NV4 Flatline. This is something that is just part of the learning curve of the game. You have to get used to the new heads-up display, you have to get used to new little features like this, and you'll be able to understand exactly what the enemy's using in the kill feed. Now somebody's probably going to come with the argument that, well, you don't always see them in the kill feed before you actually run into them. Sometimes you just run into that face-to-face gunfight, you don't know what they're using. You don't know what attachments they're using, you don't know if they're using quick draw, you don't know if they're using long barrel, you don't know if they're using extended mags, you don't know if they're using dexterity so they can reload really quickly. You never have in Call of Duty. This has never been an issue in Call of Duty. I don't see this as being much different than most of the weapon variants. Now we will talk a bit more in detail about the weapon variants, but so far, these variants for the most part don't have much more of an impact as having an attachment or a perk or something on your class. There's a shotgun that allows you to reload instantly if you get a double kill. Well, you can reload practically instantly with dexterity anyways. Or maybe the enemy has extended mags and he didn't need to reload in the first place. You don't really know these things anyways going into that gunfight. So in my opinion, this complaint also doesn't really hold any water. As for some of the specific weapon perks that Drift0r brought up, I do agree that there is a potential for imbalances, but it's too early to say anything about that yet. We haven't seen any significant imbalances yet in the game. As soon as we do, I'm sure the community is going to be in uproar and it will eventually get nerfed. I haven't seen any one variant that has stood out as like the variant to have, where if you have that, you're just going to wreck absolutely everything. Some are definitely better than others, but usually not to a noticeable extent anyways. For instance, one of the ones that Drift0r brought up was the NV4 Flatline. Now this one gives you the precision weapon perk, which makes it so you have an infinite damage range. So this means that your maximum damage is extended to infinity. With the NV4, it's a 4-shot kill minimum. So with this gun, it's always going to be a 4-shot kill rather than a 4 to 5-shot kill. From what I've seen so far, most of my gunfights with the standard NV4 are within the 4-shot kill range of that gun anyways. The one big advantage that we're likely going to notice with this, we do need to do a bit of testing to make sure this holds true, is if you put a suppressor on this variant, then you won't get any range reduction and it'll still be a 4-shot kill. And in that case, it will be noticeably more powerful than the base variant. But still, we haven't seen any major imbalance with this yet. Like I said, if this does become imbalanced, We have every right to criticize this and push Infinity Ward to nerf this in the game. As it is right now though, we aren't seeing any significant imbalances yet. Moving on to Drift0r's next point, this is the Salvage earn rate. And of course, we are getting this daily login bonus that we're not going to be getting with the final game, and we absolutely aren't going to be earning Salvage at the same rate that we're earning it in the beta right now. In fact, the whole system, we don't know what it's going to be like for the final release of the game, and I think it's a little bit too early to be jumping on that because we don't know what the earn rate's going to be in the actual final build of the game. So we'll have to wait and see for that. We'll see how it is. I agree in its current state, if you were taking away those daily sign-in bonuses, it's probably a little bit too slow, and it would be nice to earn Salvage for just finishing the game, but we don't know what it's going to be like yet in the full release of the game. They have said there are going to be changes made to this system. We don't know what those changes are going to be, and I'm going to hold off my judgment on that until we actually see what the changes are in the full game. The next point that he brings up is that the movement is less polished than Black Ops 3. Now, this is an extremely subjective area, so I'm not going to say that he's wrong. That's his opinion that the movement feels less polished. In my opinion, it feels basically identical, aside from the fact that there's no ledge slide, and there's no G-slide from what anybody's found yet, I don't think. Somebody was telling me that you can G-slide, but didn't look like much of a G-slide to me. So overall, I don't really see much of a difference. If anything, I think there's less reliance on the movement system, like the advanced movement system in this game compared to Black Ops 3, which I think a lot of players were asking for and will really enjoy. I feel like with this one, if you kept boots on the ground all the time, you wouldn't be putting yourself at any sort of significant disadvantage. Whereas in Black Ops 3, you would be at a bit of a disadvantage if you weren't utilizing that movement system to maximize your success in the game. So with this one, like I said, it's subjective, so I disagree with his opinion, but I'm not going to say his opinion is wrong. Next up, Drift0r doesn't like the camos and the way they are put on the guns in this game, and I agree with him 100%. I've talked about this before. In my opinion, it just doesn't look good the way Infinity Ward does it, where they just like completely plaster the color all over the gun and you can't see like the intricate details of the gun and stuff. And I don't like that, but that has nothing to do with my actual enjoyment of the game. So I agree with him, but it's such a minor point that if camos are turning you off from the game, I don't know what to tell you. So finally, the last big point that he makes in his video is he feels quickscoping is too easy and too powerful in this game in its current state. And I agree 100% with him. I made a video talking about this before. Quickscoping, in my opinion, should be tuned down, not removed, but tuned down, just to make it so that if you are hitting quickscopes, it's actually rewarding. Make it so it's less prevalent with quickscopers beating SMGs and shotguns up close, and just make it more difficult overall. Make it that higher skilled sort of thing. Don't make it so somebody like Drift0r, who fully admits that he is terrible at sniping, can pick one up and get a nice triple feed in his very first game of sniping. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this since I made that entire commentary talking all about this and my opinions on it. But I do agree with Drift0r here. Sniping in its current state is a little bit too easy and a little bit too powerful. Even Pomage, like one of the top snipers or somebody that would be considered like the top snipers in the world right now, admits that it's way too easy. Now, I know they've made a little tweak to it yesterday. I don't know exactly what they did, but it did seem to make it a little bit more difficult. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out and see if that made enough of a difference or if it needs a little bit more tuning. But overall, I do agree with Drift0r here. Quickscoping is too easy in this game for anybody to just pick up and do confidently. So there we have it. I think I covered pretty much all of the points that Drift0r made in his video. I might have missed a couple little tiny ones. I don't really know. I tried to jot them down as I was going through his video the second time. But I think I covered most of them. And overall, like I said, I do agree with some points with Drift0r, and there are some big issues with this game that need to be addressed. The biggest is the time to kill versus time to die, which they're working on. They have been working on. They've already been improving, but it's still no excuse. It's not fixed yet. So we'll have to wait and see how it is for the full release of the game. Next, the spawns. The spawns, again, I agree, are not that great in its current state. There are a lot of bad spawns. There are a lot of strange spawns. The spawns can be hard to predict, and they need to be tweaked and worked on. Again, I have confidence that once they get all this data, they will start working on that. But if we're just looking at the game in its current state, the spawns aren't good enough. And finally, I do agree with the fact that quickscoping needs to be tuned down in this game a little bit. Now, a couple issues that Drift0r didn't touch on that I was fully expecting him to touch on because these are actual like gameplay related issues that can affect somebody's enjoyment of the game significantly, much more than worrying about little weapon variants and traits and stuff like that, is overall score streak balance. Score streaks in this game are overall too weak, and I think the majority of players agree with this. Again, this is something that they've addressed on Twitter. They said they are going to be tweaking score streaks and making them more powerful in the future, but as it is right now, in its current state, score streaks are too weak. Also, I don't usually like to get too nitpicky when it comes to like perks and stuff like that, like if they cause the odd annoying death or something, but in my opinion, Ghost in this game in its current state is game changing, and it's definitely a step backwards. I feel like Ghost shouldn't be working for you if you're sitting in a corner camping. Instead, they should have made it more like Black Ops 3's system where you do have to be on the move for it to keep you off the radar. The final issue that I have with the game that Drift0r hasn't mentioned as well is map design. Now this can be a little bit subjective, that's for sure. I think these maps are better than Ghost maps. In my opinion, they're better than Ghost maps, but they're not as good as most Treyarch maps. And this issue worries me a little bit for the final build of the game. Every issue I've had so far is definitely fixable. The time to kill versus time to death issue, they're working on it. They've already improved it a lot, and they'll continue to work on it until it gets to where it needs to be. The spawns, they're collecting data on that. That will be changed. The Ghost perk, they haven't mentioned anything yet. I hope they'll change it in the future, but I don't know. Score streaks are being changed. Sniper balance is being changed. All of this stuff, all of these issues that I have are being changed, but map design is something that they can't change. And this is why I'm concerned about map design. But we'll just have to wait and see for the full launch of the game once we get access to all of the maps. So overall, we can talk about all of the issues we have with the game, all of the little things, all of the big things. We can talk about those issues, we can provide constructive feedback, but in the end, what it comes down to is, are you enjoying yourself with the game? For me personally, I am enjoying myself with the game. The core gameplay I really enjoy, and that's why I'm excited for this year of Call of Duty. If you don't enjoy that, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you what to enjoy, just like you shouldn't tell me what to enjoy. A big thank you to everybody that stuck around right to the end of this video, heard me out. I know it was a long video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys next time.